Welcome to the Canadian Business Quarterly podcast, where we speak with Canada's most influential industry leaders on the business and economic development issues taking place across the country. You can stay up to date with all of our content, including our publications, newsletters, and podcasts by visiting www.thecbq.ca and clicking on subscribe.
Today's guest is Dominic Walton, Executive Director of Vancouver's VGC International College, one of Canada's fastest growing private colleges. Additionally, he is the owner of education consultancy Fifth Business Education Management. He's been on the international education scene since 1993 and has seen the industry from all sides, including management and marketing, with an MBA from the University of Warwick in the United Kingdom. Dominic, thanks for joining us today.
Well, thanks for having me.
So, can you take us through the background and origins of VGC International College?
Sure. VGC has been originally it was a language school. Originally VGC stood for Vancouver, Georgia College, until we found out later there was a Vancouver, Georgia Academy. We changed the name. But it started off in 2003, and we were focusing on language exams. So your TOEFL or your IELTS exam, if you don't know what that is, that's kind of the test that international students have to take to get into universities. Later on, around about 2009, we started to do English language courses and pathways into universities. I actually joined VGC International College in 2012 when we were about 50 students at the time. And since then, we've grown into a base of more than 500 students at one time. And we graduate around about 2,000 students from not only our School of English Language, but we also have a School of International Business.
Education is a pretty fiercely competitive environment. Where do you see VGC's advantages when compared to other education programs?
Well, the private industry is a little bit different than the public. We have sort of different expectations, I guess, when there's students that are paying for a product, and it's a little bit more. There's a little bit more competitiveness within the private. We're not really competing with the public schools. But what we try to do really is we try to really focus in on the academics and the quality of our education, which should be a given. But we're actually a collection of people from other schools that kind of thought we could do things a bit better. And so I think when we're looking at a competitive advantage, it's really the staff that we're able to collect. From our teachers to our marketers to our student services people, and then what we do is we really focus on the student experience, whether it be when you're coming to Canada for the first time and sort of integrating you into the Canadian environment, or we also focus in on the academic experience. So we're really focused in on what they get out of the classroom. And then, of course, we add things to that. We make sure that there's activities going on. There's, classes in the afternoon that if you're having any difficulty studying, you want some extra help, we do that for you. We have workshops on Canadian culture, for example. We also have writing centers. So we do a lot of support for the student. And then what we do is we really make sure that those areas are set up to increase the chances of students to network with each other. So a lot of these students are from multiple different backgrounds, and really what happens is they get a chance to meet people. We have people from Colombia, for example, meeting people from Japan and becoming friends and networking, and it's kind of a good basis for the future for them in developing business opportunities, to be honest with you. And then, of course, we spend a lot of money on furniture, areas where people can actually sit and have conversations. So student space is really important to us. And this all comes back down to, the experience, of course, but also, the failure rate for a student is quite high if they don't have anyone to relate to have friends. So we focus on making sure that they have support, and the experience is fantastic.
So, you're talking about students coming in from a range of different countries. Are there common issues that you find the school needs to overcome to, develop their learning pathways, whether it be language, culture, integration?
Well, I think when we're looking at the language point of view, there's always different issues that are brought in from your own language that you know, your first language. But when we're looking at like the cultural aspect, really what we're trying to design is we're trying to produce the global citizen. And a lot of times we get students that come to Vancouver, and it's the first time that they've ever left their country. And then, of course, it's the first time that they've actually seen someone, or actually not seen someone maybe, but actually spoken to someone that maybe is from a different culture for them. So whether they're from an Asian culture, meeting a Latino for the first time, or they're meeting someone from Europe for the first time, and they bring all of these really interesting stereotypes that people have of people that they don't necessarily know. So it's fun in the sense that we're breaking down these cultural stereotypes, and then people people start to see people for what they are, and we're really no different from each other. We all have our issues in life, and it's fun just to see how the viewpoints change.
You had mentioned already VGC is divided into two distinct schools, the School of English Language and the School of International Business. What's the reason for putting your focus on these two areas?
Well, it's a couple of reasons, really. My background is in academics, in language learning, as well as just the studies of English language. But I also have an MBA, as you mentioned. So I kind of know the business, and I know the language side of the academic side. But it's also a lot based out of our students' needs. So when we're looking at, we start off as a language school, but when we're really looking at why our students are learning, and when we surveyed our students, 54% of them said, "Hey, look, I'm learning this because I want to do business." And the others were, I'm going to use this in my daily life to take back home for my job. So we started to really see a clear path to go down, that really we felt like that was the missing piece. We also have a lot of people that come in that have some have experience and some have no experience into our international business courses, and it helps them develop. There's kind of a little gap in between their qualifications to get into, say, a university, a public university. They don't quite have the language. We have a little bit of a lower language threshold for them to cross to get into our programs. Still quite high, but they still have to cross into that. And that fills that gap before they can go in and to study at say, one of our partner schools like BCIT. And it basically, it really just comes out of the need of our clients. So we divided this. We took the School of English Language and International Business, and promoted that, and it's turned out really great for us. A lot of success.
Okay, and when we originally spoke about doing this story, it was quite interesting. You had mentioned some issues surrounding Canadian education, and that it's in high consideration at the moment because of international factors. Just tell us a little bit about what's going on and what you're seeing at the moment.
Sure. There's a lot of things that kind of affect our business, a lot of third parties and world economics. And our favorite things right now going on in the world would be Brexit and Donald Trump. They have worked marvels for us. There's the Brexit has scared pretty much everybody in Europe, and they're all turning to Canada. Donald Trump, I don't know if I need to say much more other than Donald Trump. And to be quite honest with you, whether you like him or not, our Prime Minister's socks are doing us a lot of good. He is someone that is internationally is seen as kind of a beacon in politics. I'm not so sure about at home, but I mean he's really been, you have to give him his dues. He's done a good job for the international market. So we and then of course we have different economies going on. Whenever we have certain economies that are fluctuating, we have certain things that come in. Even the Korea and Japan have a bit of a trade war going on right now. That affects us as well, in a negative way. When I think 3 years ago we had a bit of a crisis down in Brazil that of course affected our numbers as well. So I mean we get affected quite easily by all these political uncertainties that happen in the world.
Does that allow you to focus your transition in marketing? Like if there's uncertainty in one area, do you refocus your marketing activities into another global region?
Yeah, so for us, diversity is really the key. So I mean, I kind of have that I don't care approach. I mean, that's really what I want to be able to say, right? So if one market goes down, it's kind of like, no, that's okay, we're fine. And we have a lot of partners around the world too, as businesses that, if they go up and down, they fluctuate, we shouldn't really be affected by it. So our strategy has always been to diversify as much as possible. And we do spend a lot of time in different markets. I think last year we went out to 23 different countries. I think this year we're probably hitting 27 different countries that we're promoting in. We've got alumni from 75 different countries. So we really try to diversify and make sure that that we expect, it's basic economics. We expect certain countries to go up and down, and we need to make sure that we adjust for that.
What are some of the other issues you have to deal with marketing Canadian education abroad? I mean, there's things like visas, but again, going back to our original chat, what was interesting is in foreign economies, there seems to be a lot of agents or middlemen who work on behalf of the students.
Yeah, I mean, again, there again, we're trying to diversify as much as possible as well. We have agents and we pick and choose our agents very carefully, obviously, because they're our partners and they represent us. And I guess this is one thing that the Canadians don't quite understand, because we don't have educational agents in Canada really helping you to choose your university. We would just go and choose our university and apply for the university. And if we wanted to study abroad, we would look it up online and we would apply and study. But in other countries, they have educational agents, and these are our partners that basically go around and promote us and other schools, and basically try to give the students the best options to go and study in Canada if they're interested, or they'll give them advice like maybe you should try. Maybe they know that Vancouver's more suitable than Toronto for this student, or maybe Toronto's more suitable than Vancouver. They'll be able to guide them through the process and then help them. And obviously they also a lot of these guys also help them through the visa application process as well.
Okay. And, despite some of the, international issues that are out of your control, the school has had some significant success. What have been some of your milestones that you can talk about?
Well, we've, just the fact that we're graduating, over 2,000 students now, says a lot for what we've done. And I think, when I say for what we've done, it's been a really, a team effort. I think, really our biggest, success really has been able to attract the right staff. And we've got some amazing people here that have really, they really know what they're doing, and they want to work for a school that's focused on the right things. We've great academic team. We've got a great student services team, and we've got a great marketing team. And the thing that they all have in common is they're constantly putting the students first. And as a competitive business, that's really what you want. You want to make sure that the client's front and center, and they've done an amazing job of that. So it's really, that's really the meat and the bones of what VGC is.
And you had mentioned during your own education, your dissertation from the University of Warwick was on corporate social responsibility, or what's more frequently known as CSR. CSR has become an increasingly visible aspect in business. How have you implemented this in your college?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's interesting because when you're in the education field, people have a tendency to think that this is a noble field, and we do noble things because we're in education. And yes, to a degree, it's very noble. But when we're looking at the international field, what we have a tendency of doing is promoting Canadian education, taking the student out of their home country, and then and with that student comes a heck of a lot of money. I mean, I believe that it's up to $19 billion that's gone into the Canadian economy each year from the international students. And what we do is we take the money, and then it's great for us because they go through the whole university situation, and they assimilate to the Canadian culture, and then they become part of the fabric of our society, which is great. Only problem is we're kind of doing a bit of a clear cut in those countries that sometimes don't need the clear cut. So what we do is we're a bit of aware of that situation. We try to put back money into NGOs in some of these countries that we're promoting from. So for us, we have what's called Educate for Change, and it's VGC's program to say, for example, our Brazilians, our Panamanians, our Thais, those guys come for every day that they're at school, we put $1 a day back into an educational NGO. And it makes us feel good about what we're doing. It also helps us to really keep the focus on what's important. And I think that's the big thing for us. And we feel like, again, we're producing the global citizen. We want to be a part of the whole global experience, and that's why we do it. And I think that's why it's important.
And before we finish up today, is there anything else that you'd like to add or address?
I can't say that there is, actually. I had a few points, but I think we've covered them.
Excellent. Well, Dominic, thanks for your time today.
Thanks so much, Jess.
This has been a production of the Canadian Business Quarterly, a division of Romulus Rising Proprietary Limited. All rights reserved. You can stay up to date with the Canadian Business Quarterly, including our publications, newsletters, and podcasts by visiting www.thecbq.ca and clicking on subscribe.